Hello, podcast world, fellow horticulturists, lovers of plants, gardeners, family, and friends. Welcome to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast, friends with woodies for garden goodies. I'm host Matt Guthrie.
And I'm host Tim Fleischer. Coming at you from Central Ohio, Zone 6B. We're just a couple of public horticulturists and certified arborists with experience in education, landscape design, gardening, retail, and wholesale.
So grab a drink, polish your pruners, dust off that kneeling pad, and let's get down to business. Hey, Shrubby Buddies, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am Matthew C. Guthrie the First, joined with Timmy Too Legit to Quit Fleischer. What up, dog?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, doggy?
Doggy dog.
Good to be back in the Mercury room. Feels like it's been weeks.
Yeah, it hasn't been, but yeah, it's always nice to be in the Mercury room. Enter at your own risk.
Mm-hmm.
I am not liable for mercury poisoning. Or maybe I am. I don't know.
We grew up in the 80s and stuff, so I feel like we're immune to mercury. Is that a thing? Like, we were probably exposed to it?
Probably not a thing, but yeah. Oh, well.
So what's been going on?
Nothing, man. Long Labor Day weekend. Let's see. Last week I went down to an event at the Cincinnati Zoo.
Yeah, you did.
It was put on by EHR, Eason Horticulture Resources, maybe EHR. I think that's what it stands for.
Okay.
Anyways, we're not set up with them, but I think at the City of Dublin it would be wise of us to get hooked up with them.
Yeah.
But they're a supplier of all things horticulture. Anyways, they did this big event down there at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens. We got to tour the Rockdale Learning Garden, which was super cool. Little off-site spot there, not even a 5-minute walk from the zoo. And then we went to the zoo and just toured the gardens and had a good time. They had a little trade show there and this and that. And yeah, it was wonderful.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Cincinnati Zoo is also a botanical garden.
Cincinnati Zoo and a botanical garden.
Yeah, and so just a real big emphasis on horticulture there.
Big emphasis on horticulture. Their hort staff's huge. Their annual displays are amazing. So they were telling us that for every annual that's in the ground, a bulb gets planted. And I think they said that there were 68,000 annuals planted. So that gives you an idea on how many fall bulbs will go in the ground.
Ooh.
And over 900 different types of annuals. Wow. So yeah, all donated.
Wow.
All of the annuals are donated.
That's incredible.
So
really?
I think it's all of these suppliers, all of these growers are just like, hey, plant my stuff. Hey, plant my stuff. So I would imagine Ball sending them stuff, Proven Winners. I could be completely wrong on that, but that's just kind of the vibe that I got.
Is any of it labeled?
Yes and no. Yes. Okay. A lot of it is. They have these beautiful trial gardens along the parking lot that were just breathtaking, these trial gardens. And it's a mix of annuals, perennials, and then smaller ornamental type trees. But yeah, it was really nice. It was a nice, beautiful day down there in Cincinnati, not too hot. Went down, walked around, saw some animals, met some cool horticulture people, plant people, and then came back. But yeah, other than that, just kind of gearing up for the fall, these cool days. Although today was kind of warm. I think tomorrow's going to be warm, but then it's supposed to cool off later this week. But yeah, these cool days and these cool evenings have got me craving more of this fall weather.
Yeah, it's so nice going outside and not just hitting chicken noodle soup with extra noodles. You hit a nice breeze and it's wow, that feels good.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that. And yeah, just going back to your Cincinnati Zoo trip, that looked beautiful. I saw your photos.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, next year.
Nice work. Yeah, I'd like to join you next year if I'm allowed.
I'm working on it.
Okay. Cool.
So,
cool.
Other than that, man, just like I said, gearing up for fall.
Awesome.
It's pumpkin spice latte season.
Yeah,
for some. PSL season.
I heard that.
I don't drink the PSLs, but
no,
I'm sure some of our listeners do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buckeyes won.
I'm sure you're right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna. That was That could sum up my week.
Did I steal your thunder?
No, but when you were going to ask me how my week was, I was just going to mention that the Ohio State Buckeyes beat the number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns and have now moved into the number 1 spot.
Yeah, from 3-1.
Yeah,
just like that, man.
So
14-7.
Very pleased with that game. Very pleased with the outcome. Good, clean game by the Buckeyes, and looking forward to them growing throughout this season. Very excited. Reigning national champs.
I was unaware.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. I know you're not a huge fan, so now you know.
Oh, get out of here. Stop it. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm headed up to the motherland soon.
You'll be there this weekend?
I'm headed up Sunday.
Okay.
Hang out with my brother and my pops. I think that my dad's going to meet us up there. He's bringing the boat, so we may head out on Torch Lake a little bit, maybe Clam Lake or Bel Air Lake.
Sounds like a blast.
Maybe get a line wet.
Are you?
Try and catch some northern pike.
Don't forget your fishing license.
Smallmouth bass, something like that.
You need a Michigan one.
Walleye. I know.
You can't use your Ohio there.
I know.
It doesn't work.
I know. Come on now. Oh, man. So that's your week, huh? Ohio State?
Yeah. Football season started up, and this time of year with just all the nice plants out there are going to start turning their fall hues. Football season's going on. My birthday's in October. It just doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
I know. You know what else is still going on in the gardens?
Things are blooming.
Things are blooming, and with the flowering in the garden
brings
pollinators.
Oh, pollinators.
So let's talk a little bit about some of these late summer into early and late fall, or late summer into fall. We'll just leave it at that. Too many words there. Yeah. So everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people, when they are planning out perennial gardens and things, they tend to go to the garden center in May and June when it's exciting and things are starting to look beautiful and all these flowers are in bloom at the local garden center, and they buy everything up and go home and plant it. And the issue is that's wonderful for early on in the year. Mm-hmm. But what about now?
Yeah.
What about now? And if you're trying to plant something to not just look pretty, but also provide food for the pollinators, we're going to need stuff now too, right? Pollinators don't just fly away midsummer.
So what you're getting at is what we're trying to do is get our gardens to, chronologically bloom from early spring all the way up through fall, right?
Correct.
So when one thing's done blooming, something new is blooming.
Yeah.
Or multiple things are blooming. So the pollinators have some continuous food throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that. And there's a lot of things blooming. There's a lot of things out there blooming right now that pollinators visit to an extent, but what we want to talk about is the real pollinator magnets, things that are just like branches are bending over because there's so many bees that are just creating so much weight that's just bending over.
Just buzzing and humming around there.
Like those bees are like, hey, perennial, bend over. I'm going to get you.
Little knowledge nugget for you here. Did you know that there's over 4,000 species of native bees?
Well, no, I didn't.
Now you know. Knowledge nugget for you there.
Wow.
So yeah, people just see these and they think, oh, well, that's one of those wood-boring bees, or that's a bumblebee, or that's a honeybee, and that's only like 3 of thousands.
Yeah.
That are native.
Yeah, and you say that I feel like the honeybee gets a lot of positive press. It's always the honeybee, the honeybee, the honeybee, and while the honeybee is a very efficient pollinator, it's not even a native species, it's an introduced species. So there are 4,000 more native bee species out there, right?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy. And a lot of them are solitary, so you don't see as many because they create a small little brood of bees, not just this giant hive with thousands.
Yeah.
And there's some that are out in spring, and then some that come out in the summer, and some that come out later in the season, and they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
That's awesome.
So,
do they have any blue and pink striped ones?
I don't know. I know there's blue ones. I don't know about blue and pink stripes.
All colors.
Yeah, most colors.
That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
I bet there's a pink bee in this world.
Probably so. So like we always talk about bees, when we talk about pollinators is a huge thing right now. It gets talked about all the time, working in the garden center. That's always the thing that I hear is when people are buying perennials is this a pollinator? Is this a pollinator? And native also gets thrown out there. Is this a native perennial? And there's a lot of discussion that we can have on natives, nativars, and then non-native species. I know you and I are in the same wheelhouse where we probably prefer native or nativar plants, but we're not going to push the non-natives to the side, because we're going to list some today that are non-native plant species that are excellent pollinators that these pollinators visit for their food and the nectar. And so let's not get too hung up on everything having to be completely native. The native plants are probably the best choice. There are other choices also. And something else too is when we think pollinators, everyone just thinks about bees, right? What are some of the other pollinators out there besides bees, Tim, that, the people maybe aren't aware of, or, because one of these, like I'm just going to say it, flies, that's one that a lot of people probably don't think of as pollinators. They want to catch flies and kill them or
flies,
zap them or swat them.
I would say that in general, like the housefly is looked at as a pest, but there are so many different flies out there that do pollination. And in fact, after bees, flies are the next biggest group of insects that do order of insects that do pollination. So it goes bees, flies, then butterflies and moths. And so flies are super important pollinators. So like, you always hear the save the bees talk. Well, don't forget about save the flies.
Yeah.
And then the butterflies are obvious. People love them because they're butterflies and they're pretty, and there's moths too. And then there's hummingbirds. People love those. Ants are pollinators. Beetles. Wasps and hornets are in the bee group, but they are also pollinators. And you've got things that you don't think of as much, like bats. There's bats around the world that do pollinating.
Yeah.
So many different types of pollinators that exist out there. And we have said the word pollinator probably already in this talk about 16,000 times. And I just want to make sure that, our listeners understand what that is.
Yeah.
Right?
Give them a little biology lesson here on what pollination is and how that works.
So essentially about 1/3 of our food supply relies on one of these pollinators that isn't wind. So it's a very important term, pollinator. So if you think about some of our grain crops, those are wind pollinated.
Yeah, like corn and beans and things like that. Yeah.
And even beans might. Well, there probably is an element of both with them. But corn
sure.
and wheat and things like that are pollinated via the wind. But many, many, many things, in fact, like I said, 1/3 of our food supply rely on these pollinators to visit a flower and then visit another flower. And essentially what's happening is this creature is touching the male part of the plant,
the anthers,
which is got pollen on it, right?
Yeah.
It's inadvertently picking up some of that pollen, going to another flower and transferring that pollen to the female part of the plant. And then fertilization happens, which creates the fruit. So it could be a pecan, it could be a tomato, it could be
a pepper, a squash, a zucchini, a watermelon, you name it.
An apple, and we're just scratching the surface on that.
Go to the grocery store and just walk through the fruit and vegetable aisle. Guess what? It was pollinated.
For the most part, like something like a carrot, that's a root vegetable. Pollination is creating seeds so the carrots can reproduce, but the actual part you're eating isn't the fruit. It's a vegetative structure, but that's a whole nother episode. But yeah, so it's really important. And the creatures, so let's just take a bee, for example. A bee is taking pollen back. If you've seen a bee that has just this pollen caked onto its legs and those pollen sacs, it's taking that pollen back to feed its young. And it's along the way, along its journey, it's nectaring. It's taking the nectar out of these flowers so it can sustain itself, so it can have the strength and energy to fly from flower to flower. Something like a butterfly is there strictly for the nectar. It is not feeding pollen. It is not using the pollen, but it is inadvertently taking the pollen from flower to flower. So every pollinator is a little different in what it's going at the flower for. But as long as the pollen's getting from the male part to the female part, flower doesn't care.
Yeah,
how it's happening
for sure.
So, cool stuff. It's really cool stuff. And I think what we want you to know is there's 4,000 species of native bees. Really cool, right?
Yeah.
And then there's just more than bees that do this pollination. It's really cool.
It's super cool.
Yeah, it gets me going.
You're getting cranked up over here over the pollinators.
Prince, so we've let the dogs in for this episode.
Yeah.
Because they're acting pretty chill. And Prince senses my energy and he's licking my leg.
Yeah, he sensed the excitement in your voice over pollinators.
Down. Yeah, he's a good boy.
But yeah, so and that's Prince giving you kisses there on the mic. Nice. So we have all of these pollinators, all of these bees, flies, beetles, ants, moths, butterflies, hummingbirds, wasps, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. We have all of this stuff, and we want to make sure that we're keeping those things around and we're keeping those things happy from, when they start coming around early in the spring, all the way until when it, a hard freeze, basically, when it shuts everything down. So what we want to talk to you about today, we just want to throw some different things out there for you to think about, maybe adding some cool perennials, shrubs, or trees into your garden for fall pollinators. And these are plants that we use and we see pollinators on, right now when we're out working, this time of the year, clear on into the fall. So so we're just going to give you a list of some of our late season pollinator magnets. And
and we're talking magnets here. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of things blooming out there that you might see a bee on occasionally, but we're talking things that the pollinators are just bending over.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the quintessential fall flowering plants, when I see this start to flower late summer, I know okay, it's almost that time of the year. And that is our ironweed, our native ironweeds. The species gets big. We've seen them 11 feet tall. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of really good cultivars that stay smaller with some of the plant breeding and stuff. So these would be like nativars that are going to stay more in that 3 foot by 3 foot range.
Southern Cross, Iron Butterfly.
There's Prairie Princess is an even smaller one. So there's some really good ironweeds out there, but just a really cool plant, nice fine textured foliage similar to that of Amsonia, but it just gets these big, bright, bold purple flowers on them. Yeah. Late summer into early fall, and
very reminiscent of an aster bloom.
Yep.
If you're familiar, and just tons of blooms on one head, so it just makes it look super bright. And this is one that's gaining traction in the garden. For a long time, we just saw it as like a woodland edge type perennial, but then with some plant breeding, they've created, ones that fit into your home garden a little bit better, and that it's hard to beat that purple.
It really is. It really stands out. And if you're unfamiliar with ironweed, if you live like in the Midwest or along the East Coast, drive down a country road this time of the year, and you're going to see these tall purple flowering plants. Yeah. And guess what? That's ironweed. So,
and it plays so well with goldenrod, which is another huge pollinator magnet. And it's another one for me, like how ironweed signifies this time of year. Goldenrod does that as well because, and there's tons of different goldenrods.
Oh,
so
gosh,
some are
many.
blooming, some haven't bloomed yet, some are still a ways away from blooming, but typically associated with a bright yellow flower. Just a magnet for the bees. In fact, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you've ever walked along a prairie that's just full of goldenrod and the wind's just right, I can almost smell honey.
Yeah.
Like it just smells.
Well, don't they sell like honey that is like
They do.
They call it like goldenrod honey or whatever.
But I don't know if it's the pollen or a combination of all the bees and sucking nectar out and the wind catching that, but I can smell honey in the air, which I think is really cool. And this is one that we use in the landscape that if you're looking for a smaller variety, there's something like solar cascade or fireworks or even smaller little lemon.
Yeah, and then there's the new one out that's kind of that white cream yellow, which
Sugar
is
Kisses.
Sugar Kisses, yeah.
Brent Horvath introduction.
Which is a smaller one. Now, what I will say with the goldenrods is they can seed themselves around. So, do your research on that, and to see whichever one you're purchasing, if it is a self seeder and how aggressive it is, and maybe it's something that you want to add into your garden in 2 or 3 years after your garden's kind of established and matured a little bit. That way you can put it in there, and the companion plants around it will kind of hold some of those seedlings in check and won't allow them to.
Yeah. I've noticed that at my house, and also I've noticed it's just the clump has just gotten a lot bigger, clumps, but really easy just to dig out a chunk of it and give it to a friend or neighbor if you're into that. And just a little side nugget on goldenrod is, since it's a late bloomer, it responds really well to like a late May, early June chop.
Yep.
So you just cut it back, like you can cut it back pretty far, but like halfway, and then you end up with sturdier plants.
A little shorter and sturdier plants.
With just as many flowers.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Something else another good pollinator, a nativar that could use a good shear back is our asters. And asters are great. There's so many different types of asters. They're, blues and pinks and purples and whites, like all the different colors. They make a great mom alternative. So you can use these guys in your fall plantings and containers and things, and then put them in the ground when you're done. But they make a great mom alternative.
They sure do.
Pollinator magnet, loaded with flowers. I don't know what else to say about them. You have anything you want to add on aster? I mean, there's just so many different ones. There's like the purple dome aster is a real popular one. Woods aster.
They complement a lot of perennials really well, especially if you do give them that cutback, so they kind of stay nice and compact. They go really well with Amsonias when the Amsonias are starting to change color.
Yeah.
The leaves. The purple aster with that orange leaf is just gorgeous. And like the goldenrod and the ironweed that we just spoke of, they go really well with those. So you can kind of create that native prairie or even like roadside look.
Yeah.
But in a garden and use a little bit of care to keep things just how you want them.
Now, I will say with some of the native asters, they are a little bit more, not unruly, but they will kind of grow a little bit more unruly. A lot of the nativars or the cultivars that we have out now are bred to be these kind of meatball plants, they really kind of keep their space in the garden. They literally are just round balls, kind of like what you would see your mums be. Yeah. That's kind of what you get with a lot of the new ones, and that's perfectly fine.
And I'm not going to lie. There's so many different types of asters, and when I see some that I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that one from last year in that prairie, I'm like, I don't want that in my garden.
Yeah.
At home. It's just a little too unruly and not ornamental enough, but there are plenty that are really suited nicely to put into your garden.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm going to go down to Joe Pye weed.
Since we're talking about some of these native perennials.
So Joe Pye weed, it's Eupatorium. It might have been recently changed to Eutrochium as far as the Latin goes. But Joe Pye weed is a large, perennial, like some of the ones we just talked about, tall, with like a big top full of pink flowers.
Yeah.
And again, a pollinator magnet. Like this is the one you can see from a distance. You can almost see the flower moving, but it's not the wind. It's the amount of bees, flies, moths, butterflies that are just on top of these plants, right?
Tons of flies on them, hoverflies, and yeah.
And the other thing about Joe Pye weed and also with ironweed that I kind of hate as far as the common name goes is because people see the word weed, and they immediately get turned off. Like, oh, that's a weed?
Similar to like butterfly weed.
Yeah, that's a weed? Well, no, weed is a very subjective term, and we're not going to get into it today, but that's just the common name. Don't worry about that. It's a freaking gorgeous plant. And like the others we talked about, there's cultivars that make it more well-suited for a garden, because if you see this plant growing in its natural environment, we're talking 6, 7, 8 feet tall on a Joe Pye weed. But then if you go down to like a little Joe,
or even a baby Joe.
Or a baby Joe. Little baby Joe. It's the same plant, but it's much shorter in stature.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm just going to interject something here. So you kind of see the trend that we're going with on this. The native plants are big. The nativars are smaller. And this is where it comes in. You know, you have the native and nativar debate. Some people are like, oh, it has to be natives. Well, if you live in a nice neighborhood, you know, in like a more residential setting where you're on maybe like a 1/4 acre lot or a 1/2 acre lot, and you want to create like a pollinator habitat in front of your home, an 8-foot tall Joe Pye weed and an 11-foot tall ironweed
is going to get your HOA after you.
Yeah,
is what it's going to do.
It just doesn't make sense in front of your house, you know? So going to some of these nativars, it's still genetically bred from native plants, still providing all of this stuff for the pollinators, but they're better suited for smaller landscapes. Not everyone has the room to plant a big prairie or these massive naturalistic plantings in their neighborhoods and in their front yards or in their backyards, because like you had just said, you know, the HOAs definitely will come after you. So
yeah, and you may remember this. We were in a talk some years ago from a woman from Mount Cuba, and she was talking about their research they did on nativars. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to get into that, but if that's something you're interested in, I recommend looking it up, going to Mount Cuba's website and looking at their research they've done with nativars, and like it breaks down things like double flowers and purple foliage and the size of flowers and dwarf plants, and if the pollen is as nutritious and things like that. And it's all worth a good read.
Yeah.
Again, we're not going to get into it, but it's worth a gander if that's something you're very interested in.
Yeah, I do remember that talk. That was really good, because I remember her talking about, not to get too far off subject here, but penstemon specifically. Mm-hmm. The native penstemon has green leaves, and a lot of these new nativars that we have out are purple leafed. And she was talking about how in their studies, the number of pollinators that visited one plant to the other. And she said that there were more that visited the native plant, but there were still pollinators visiting the purple leaf plant. It just, the numbers weren't as high.
Right. So essentially it's like there's got to be a good center ground here.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're still doing more service to pollinators with a purple leaf penstemon than you are with turf grass.
Correct.
So, you know, just we got to ride that middle ground. We can't be so polarized. We're going to be polarized in sports. We're going to be polarized in religion and politics, but let's try not to be polarized in our world.
Yeah.
Let's try to come together.
Let's do it. Yeah. So Joe Pye weed, love it. I'd love that plant. And also with the Joe Pye weed, I don't know, maybe you had said this, or I don't know. A little bit of additional moisture will do those guys some good too. So if you have a lower lying area or someplace that receives a little bit more water, they would definitely benefit from that. I have noticed some of the ones that I have that are in some pretty dry areas, they do fine. They come back every single year, but by this time of the year when you're kind of
crispy,
they start getting a little crispy.
Yeah.
You know, if they're in a dry area and you're in a little bit of a drought or it's abnormally dry, they do get a little bit of crispiness to the leaves, but still doesn't keep the pollinators from visiting them. They just look tired and wore out, but still a great plant overall.
For sure. And just a quick note about a cousin to this Joe Pye weed we're talking about is boneset, common boneset, which is also a eupatorium or eutrochium. And it's going to look very similar to Joe Pye weed, but it's going to have white flowers, and it's going to be smaller in stature.
And a little bit more whimsical looking. It's just, to me, it's just a little
It's not
bit,
as bulky.
It's not as thick and chunky and bulky. It's just a little bit more airy. But
also blooming right now and
Yeah.
also covered in pollinators, if that's something you'd like to add to your garden.
I
So
photographed some this morning in a prairie that was loaded with pollinators. So
yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
What else on this list is just like grabbing at your heartstrings, Matt?
So one that we talk about frequently, and it's been flowering for a while, but this is one of those perennials that just, once it starts flowering, it holds onto that flower for so damn long.
I know what you're going to say.
And that's calamint.
I knew it.
Okay. And this is, like I said, this is one that starts flowering like midsummer, and it just, I mean, mine are still in full flower, and these flowers are eventually going to fade from a white to this kind of like purpley color.
And you haven't sheared it back.
No, I haven't touched
like
it.
its cousin catmint.
Catmint.
That in order to continue to get those blooms, you got to shear it back.
No. And this stuff, when I say pollen, like mine, the other day Taylor like literally came inside and was like, "Holy shit, have you seen the number of bees on that white plant out there?" And I'm like, yeah. And I mean, I have a bunch of them, you know, but it literally looks like, because I have it to where it kind of flops over the front sidewalk and it just really breaks up those hard lines. And it just looked like the sidewalk was moving with the number of bees that were on this thing. Just insane.
And just, you mentioned that there's a ton of bees on this plant that's flopped over your main walkway. How many times have you gotten stung from those?
0.
So I just want to throw that out there because those bees are so interested in that plant. They could care less about you walking by. And I think a lot is often made about, you know, plants that attract pollinators in common areas like that. Because, like, my daughter, Whitney, did I tell you that she got stung a few weeks ago?
By
probably a hornet. But she was just on a playground, like, in a tunnel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like,
dude, hornets, yellow jackets, wasps, they're all assholes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could get stung. You could get stung by one of those things anywhere, and it's probably not going to be from the calamint on your walkway.
Yeah.
So
I've never once been stung working in my garden. I don't really have a lot of yellow jackets and wasps and things around. I don't have any of those ground nesting, whatever they are, hornets or yellow jackets. Anyways, but I'm always in there messing around all those bees. And I had a customer the other day at the greenhouse that was looking at, I think she was looking at getting allium, and she was wanting to plant it near the entrance to their house or their barn or something, and it had bees on it. And she was just like, "Oh, I don't know if I want that. It's got the bees on it. It's going to be real close to the front door." And I'm like, "No, look." And it was honeybees, you know. And I'm like, literally, like rubbing my finger across them.
you're like giving them a little back massage.
Yeah, and they're just like running away from me. I'm like, they want nothing to do with you. They don't want to sting you. They don't want to do any of that. Like all they care about is just being on this plant and getting food.
Right on.
Yeah. So calamint, it's top on my list. When people ask me what's your favorite perennial, calamit's usually in the top 3 of the discussion. So there we have it, folks.
I'm going to throw a little curveball in here.
Throw it.
This plant is called bottle gentian.
Ooh.
Blue bottle gentian.
I know how much you love this plant.
And I do, and I've seen it. You can find this at retailers if you look hard enough. I know when I worked at Anderson's, we sold bottle gentian.
Okay.
It didn't sell very well because I just don't think people understood what it was. But it's a really cool native perennial that thrives in like a moist soil. And we've got a little bit growing around in Dublin that I always like to visit. But what I love about it is it's very specific to bumblebees, being its primary pollinator. And the reason is because, hence the word bottle, this is where we need video. The petals of the bottle gentian come together at the top and kind of seal it off like it's a closed flower.
Yeah.
And the what's it called? What did I call it? The bee? The bumblebee.
The bumblebee
has to pry those flowers open and then dive in head first. And then the petals close behind it. And you often see their little butts waggling around, but nothing else of them. It's so cute.
Yeah.
And
I know me and you have stopped many a time up there at Kosciuszko Park to photograph the bees' butts in the bottle.
Well, it's cool because they can be completely enveloped by this flower, and so the flower will be moving around like something's inside of it, but you can't tell what's inside of it. But I guarantee it's a bumblebee because you have to be strong to open that up. So they've got a very specific relationship with the bumblebee. So if you're looking for like a cutesy thing to add to a garden that you can get plenty of moisture to, I highly recommend bottle gentian, and it's like a super bright iridescent blue color to the flower. There's tons of different gentians, but this is one of our native ones that I know about. So
that's cool.
Yep. Just throwing it out there.
Verbena bonarensis, a non-native verbena that can be a little aggressive with the self-seeding, but it does flower this time of the year and is a pollinator magnet. On the flip side of that, our native verbena hysata is another good one that starts flowering midsummer into the fall. But so there's two verbenas that are both good pollinators. The verbena bonarensis is kind of this tall, leggy plant with, I don't know, what would you say, like 1 to 2 inch or so, kind of flat topped purpley flower on top.
Yeah, they're almost like rounded. The way the flowers form, they look like almost little blue balls.
Yeah, but if you allow them to kind of shoot up through stuff, it adds a nice, texture. And
they do, but be cautious. Like Matt said, very aggressive. So make sure that it's somewhere where you want it to reseed everywhere, because it will.
Yeah, but the hysata, the verbena hysata, is a shorter plant that gets these kind of tall, spike-like, speedwell-looking type flowers on it. But again, another native that's a great pollinator plant.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So there's a couple of verbenas for you. What else we got, bub?
So I really like for hummingbirds. There's two plants that I love for hummingbirds, and I'll start with David phlox.
Okay.
Garden phloxes in general are a long bloomer, so they've been blooming for a while now, but a lot of them are still blooming. My David phlox at home is still in full bloom, and it's a bright white, like a true white phlox. It's beautiful. It doesn't have like, you get close to it, and it doesn't have like weird pink striations coming from the center. It is a true white, and for some reason, the hummers just can't stay off of it.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if I can keep the deer and the rabbits off of it, I love this for hummers. So a white garden phlox.
The blue paradise, I was telling you earlier, there's some blue paradise that's still in full flower in one of the gardens that I have in Dublin.
Yeah, and we talked about that one fairly recently, but the blue paradise changes from blue to pink as the heat of the day comes on, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
And then another hummer magnet is some of the agastaches. So our native agastaches, like what's the cultivar of the agastache that we love? The blue fortune, are covered in bees and butterflies and things. But then we've got these dwarf anise hyssops that come in like oranges and pinks and reds and yellows. I mean, it's almost like you name it.
Yeah, there's like the Sunrise and the Tango series and the Rosy series. There's like Rosy Posy.
Yeah, those babies have these long tubular flowers that the hummers they just can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And that's one in our garden that we can always count on the hummingbird. And it's almost like you look out the window and the hummingbird's there, and then it flies away, and then the next time you look out the window, it's there again. It just loves this shit.
Yeah.
So
that's cool, man. But like you said, the blue fortune is a great one for like the bees and the flies and things. And that's another one that's a really long bloomer, I've noticed. You know, it starts flowering and it just keeps on rocking.
Yeah, and I love the scent that that Anyagastache gives off. It's like that black licorice type scent.
Yeah.
I just want to eat it up.
And what's cool about those two is like the blue fortune is one that's going to get a little bit bigger in the garden, but if you want to get some Agastache that stays a little smaller, go with the tangos and the rosies and the whatever series, the smaller ones, the ones you're talking about, the tubular ones.
And I will caution with some of those dwarf ones is that they hate the heavy soil. So
yeah,
they like it dry, but they want it also very well drained. So they hate the heavy clay soil, so it can be a little bit of a chore getting those to come back each year. We've got one that's perpetually coming back, but we've lost a few also in the process.
So maybe if you have an area that's got some good organic stuff, or if you live in an area that just by nature you have good soil. Unfortunately, here in Central Ohio we have heavy clay soil. It's shit no matter what. So we really would have to amend soil for this sort of a thing. But, you know, maybe you're a listener of the podcast and you're fortunate enough to have the beautiful soil that these guys want. And if you do, plant them because they are fantastic.
Hummer magnet.
You know, so we've been talking a lot about perennials here. Do you want to hit on the rest of these perennials? Just real quick, and then we can move into a few of the shrubs.
Yeah, why don't you list them off?
Okay, yeah. So some of the perennials that we have left would be like Russian sage. This is a non-native. A lot of different sizes. With the breeding on that, they are breeding things to be very small and compact and work better in the garden. Less floppage, more intense stem and flower color, but pollinator magnet. Every time people see these, they're always like, oh, isn't that something that the bees always go to? You know, it's like, yeah, you know, they are pollinator magnets. But there again, it's the bees that are hitting these guys, so don't worry too much about it. The bees aren't going to get you.
No.
Something else that we've got on here would be lobelia, great blue, and cardinal. So do you have anything you want to hit on with the lobelia?
I love lobelias for this late season color, and there's two main ones. There's the cardinal flower,
which is red.
It's just red. It's not like pinky red. It's not like dark red. It's just red.
It's like spidgy red, but just like a more bold flower, if you will.
A fun flower, like one of those flowers you get looking at it really close up, and it has a neat shape. Hummingbirds love it.
Yeah.
Another Hummer magnet. Another one that's going to prefer a little bit more moist soil with the lobelia. Also can take a little bit of shade. I've seen it growing like in some more like semi-open areas in our woodlots. So that's fantastic. And then its cousin lobelia, great blue lobelia, and it's a very similar looking plant, but it's got these bright blue flowers, and it can handle, it still would prefer moist, rich, but it can handle some drier soils.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen it growing like in the middle of woodlots. So it can handle quite a bit of shade.
And native.
Oh, both of them, yeah.
Might we add. So that's cool.
Might we add? Might.
And then last but not least on the list of perennials here, we've got sedums. There's so many sedums out there. So
65,000 different cultivars of sedum.
They're not quite like the number of hostas that there are out there, but there's a lot of sedums. So you're going to get these things from ground covers clear up to these bigger plants. Different foliage colors, yellows, greens, variegated, dark purples, almost blacks. You're going to have light pink flowers, very intense pink flowers, serrated leaf edges.
Sedums are
creepers, crawlers.
And they're just a workhorse in the garden.
They really are.
They just, it's hard to kill them. Once they're established, they're just good to go. They like it super dry for the most part, and they bloom really late, so they're a great food source for pollinators late in the season.
Yeah, I've got just some plain old, well, I have several different sedums, but just the plain old autumn joy that's always got stuff on it when it's flowering. I think I've got neon out there and some of that Angelina, which spread like crazy. And
We've been liking Carl.
Carl and what's the other one? Pillow Talks. But I have one of the ones that's like the kind of smaller purple leaf.
Night Embers?
No, it's short. Night Embers gets big. Is it like SS Dazzleberry or I don't know. It's one of those.
Dazzleberry.
Yeah, Dazzleberry. Sun Sparkler Dazzleberry. That's what the SS stands for. So
okay.
Yeah. So that kind of rounds it off on the perennials. Sedum's kind of one of those, when you think fall perennials, maybe your knowledge of perennials isn't great. But I know so many people that don't know a lot about plants, but they know sedum flowers in the fall. You know what I mean? It's like, I need something that flowers in the fall. You got any sedums, so.
And something to keep in mind with these fall bloomers is since they bloom so late, those flower heads are typically around all winter. So they make great plants for winter interest. I mean, if I go down this list, goldenrod, aster, Russian sage, agastache, joe pie weed, right? These are all things, sedums, that continue to look good throughout the winter.
Calamint.
Because those seed heads, they haven't had all summer to kind of desiccate and dry out. They just kind of hang around all winter, and they catch the snow real nice.
And besides that, it's food source for the birds. So, I mean, you're getting the pollination from all of the bees and flies and what we've talked about earlier in the podcast. But then in the wintertime, if you leave this stuff standing, it'll reseed around potentially, which can be a good thing or bad thing, depending on what you're going for.
And the stems may house insects.
The stems will house insects, and the seed heads will provide food for birds or other.
That's some full circle shit right there, guys.
Yeah. So just great plant all around. Great plants all around. So now that we've kind of hit on a lot of the perennials, let's talk about two shrubs here. One of them's kind of a shrubby tree, I guess you would, I don't know, Heptacodium. What would seven sun, am I saying that right?
Seven sunflower tree.
Sunflower tree, yes.
Yeah. Heptacodium mycaneoides.
Yeah, I'll let you roll with that. But would you consider that a tree or a shrub?
I would consider it a tree, but it's often sold in a multi-stemmed form.
Kind of shrubby looking,
because it has a really nice ornamental peely bark. The growers will grow it in a multi-stem, so you see more of that.
Yeah.
Kind of like a crepe myrtle. I know we've compared this to a crepe myrtle in the past, but it's very hardy here. Very, very, very tough tree. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Show me a tree that's blooming this prolifically in the middle of September. You can't.
And one that will host 67,000 bees on one flower.
At one time.
At one time.
Yeah. I once saw 87 monarchs on one small Heptacodium tree at one time.
I don't believe you.
Well, you don't have to.
It happened though.
Memories last a lifetime for me.
Okay.
Really is a pollinator magnet. And it's not native, so I don't want to get in that kind of argument with anybody, but it was full of monarchs, full of honeybees, full of various other flying insects. So something about it's got to be good, right?
Well, yeah, and it's not native, but guess what? It's not invasive either.
Yeah.
Or aggressive.
No,
I've never seen this thing seeding itself anywhere.
It doesn't.
I mean, redbud's way more aggressive than this stuff ever would be.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? A native redbud.
And a native redbud is a really important early season pollinator plant.
Yeah, but we're talking late season.
Right, but just this whole thing about solitary, about having a chronological time frame for pollinators, a lot of the native solitary bees love that redbud. You just don't see them because they're small and they're just one at a time. But
one of the 4,000.
Mm-hmm. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then another non-native, Caryopteris. What's the common name on Caryopteris? Is it
Bluebeard?
Yeah, Bluebeard. So this is kind of a sub-shrub. It could use a good shear back, like early in the spring. I like to leave mine up all winter long. I think it just kind of helps insulate the plant. I'll be honest with you, though. I've also not ever sheared some back, and they do just fine. But on a really cold winter, you know,
yeah, you're going
to lose some of the plant. But
you're going to have to cut out some dead branches and some dead stems that succumb to the cold winter temps at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Taylor's home.
But Caryopteris, I have noticed it will seed itself around a little bit in the garden. Not crazy, not anything that can't be taken care of. It's specifically the yellow leafed variety. I can't remember which one that is. I haven't noticed it so much on...
Well, you probably notice it more with the yellow leaf variety just because those yellow seedlings jump out at you.
Yeah, but they're like...
But they just like kind of fall around the plant. It's not like you're finding them like 40 yards away in another part of your yard or anything.
But it is a pollinator magnet.
It is.
These plants just... They bring the bees.
And I was talking earlier about not getting scared of bees like along your walkway. This is one that when I'm mowing the lawn and around that side of the garden where I do kind of like step to the side to try not to brush into it, because I'm like, if I go full frontal into that plant, I'm going to have bees on me. Like it's just covered in them.
Yeah.
So just like I'm just going to let them do their thing and not bump into them.
So it's kind of like the calumet of the shrub world.
Yeah, I like that.
You know,
did we mention just really nice blue flowers?
Beautiful blue flowers, beautiful
pretty
foliage on it too. Mm-hmm. Just a really, really nice plant.
Yeah,
that does extremely well with the pollinators and flowers this time of the year. We'll have to get a picture of that up on the gram. I've got a really, really nice one right now in flower at Kaufman Park.
I bet you do.
Cool. So that kind of wraps it up on our plant list for the week. But I do know, Tim, you had a bonus round that you wanted to talk about here. So I'm just going to kind of let you take this away. I know it has to do with host plants for different swallowtails and butterflies and things.
I mean, pop in as you see fit.
Yeah, but you know, I know this is your little thingy.
So butterflies are big, right?
Yep.
People love butterflies. And we always think of the milkweed as like the quintessential butterfly plant, because not only does the adult butterfly nectar on the milkweed flowers, she will lay her eggs on the plant, and then subsequently those eggs will hatch and the caterpillars will eat the leaves of the milkweed and complete their life cycle, turning into a chrysalis, hatching, and becoming a new butterfly. So like you get the whole life cycle right there in your garden. There's a lot of plants like that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were pointing at me.
No.
There's a lot of plants like that, and I just want to throw some out there. I don't think that any one native butterfly or moth is more important than another, but we all seem to get gravitated to the bright, colorful, big ones, right? Like the monarchs.
Oh, yeah.
Big, bright orange. So if you want to have kind of this full circle thing going on in your garden, I want to give you a little bit of food for thought for food sources for the larvae, for the butterflies. So I'll start with spicebush. Spicebush is a native shrub. We've talked about it a lot, but it is the host to the spicebush swallowtail. And again, this would be a good time to have a video so we could like throw up a card that has a picture of us.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful, it's like an all black butterfly. It's huge. And then it has like this really bright teal, aqua teal stripe that goes along the bottom of the wings. And it's very specific. Its only host plant is the spicebush plant. And it has a really cool caterpillar that pretends to be a snake so the birds won't eat it, yada, yada. So easy to get spicebush in your yard. If you live near a woodland, you probably already do have it along your yard, but a great host for that.
Yeah.
Another one is our native Petlia trifoliata or trifolia. Can never remember if it's trifolia or trifoliata. But either way, the common name would be wafer ash, among other things. Not actually related to an ash.
You know what's cool about the wafer ash?
What?
It's a really good indicator species for a healthy forest.
Yeah, I've heard this before.
Yeah?
Tell me more.
That's all.
Okay.
Keep going.
It's a good indicator species for a healthy forest, but an easy one to grow in like a shady part of your yard. It would be like a large shrub or a small tree, and it is the host to the eastern tiger and giant swallowtail.
Ooh.
So the eastern tiger swallowtail has purple, orange, and black stripes. So kind of like monarch colors, but different orientation. And the giant swallowtail, which is, if I'm seeing this right, I think it might be North America's largest butterfly.
Oh, damn.
And
okay.
it's a big one. If you see this one, you'll know it. You'll be like, whoa, that's some next level shit.
Yeah.
So very cool, very easy to grow that in your yard. Next one is pawpaw, which is host to the zebra swallowtail. Another swallowtail. A lot of these swallowtails are just big, bold butterflies. So I've got a bunch of pawpaw, and I'm always looking. I haven't found one yet.
And here with pawpaw, I'm going to interject for a second. We were talking about different types of things like pollinators, bees, flies, butterflies, all of this and that. And the pawpaws are pollinated primarily by flies, correct? So
look at
there
that.
you go. So there's a good example. If it weren't for flies, we wouldn't have pawpaw fruit. And what's kind of cool about that too is
if it weren't for flies, perhaps we wouldn't have zebra swallowtails.
And we wouldn't have zebra swallowtails. Correct.
Look at that.
So full circle shit right there.
Yeah, it is.
I just wanted to throw that in there because people don't always think about flies as being pollinators. And like that pawpaw is a prime example of, they really depend on the flies. And I think I've even heard stories of people throw pawpaw farmers will throw like roadkill near them or something to bring the flies in.
So the scent of a pawpaw flower is kind of musty. It's not like a bright floral scent, and it attracts flies. And someone who might be trying to have a crop of pawpaw fruits will throw like rotting meat under their pawpaw trees because that will attract flies that will then find those flowers.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Pretty cool.
Crazy.
And lastly, dill and parsley, which I would suggest parsley over dill because the dill can be hard to get rid of in the garden.
Yeah.
It's something that really takes over unless you've got like a pot or something dill would work well in. But the black swallowtail feeds on those, and so that's the host plant for those. And what's great about that is you've got dill and parsley to use culinarily if you'd like, but then also, and these things can do some damage. Like if these babies find your dill and your parsley, they'll strip all the leaves off pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
And they're a very pretty caterpillar. They're like bright lime green with stripes of yellow and black, often confused with a monarch, but a little bit different. So, so easy to tuck some parsley plants into your perennial garden. They're not really providing anything ornamentally, but they're providing a food source for the larva, for the butterfly.
Yeah,
so,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Man, insects are pretty neat things, aren't they? What's the one caterpillar that eats all of the tomato plants?
The hornworm?
Hornworm. Yeah, and what's wild about those are that there's a parasitic wasp that literally lays its eggs inside of the hornworm, and then when the larva hatches, they eat their way out, killing it. I just think that's wild. Like,
they just like turn the guts into mush and just
like this parasitic wasp is like doing us all a favor.
Yeah.
And you see photos of it, you know, and you're just like, oh, that looks fucking horrible.
If you think that's cool sounding, you've never heard of it, take a Google of that. That's pretty cool shit.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I'm going to knock on wood. I've never found any of those on my tomatoes.
Let's hope not. If not, maybe you'll have some parasitic wasps take care of them for you. So, cool, man. Well, that kind of wraps it up for our late season pollinator magnets talk here today. I hope that we shared some insightful information with you on how to provide good pollinator plants for the kind of late summer into fall season, and some other tidbits of information. A little biology lesson from you. We went over
some full
different
circle
types,
shit,
some full circle shit, all of that good stuff. So yeah, this is a fun episode to talk about. So I'm glad we did it.
I am too.
You got anything else you want to add?
I am very glad. Well, just don't forget about the flies. People.
Save the flies.
You know, save the flies too.
Save the bees, save the flies, save all of it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So, cool, peeps. Well, that kind of does it for...
Love you harder.
Yeah, we love you all harder. +2.
Rock on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.